Hey guys, Jason here. Welcome back to another video. In today's video, I will be sharing with you the final draft for the first chapter of Project Prehistorica. I have listened to you all and read all of your comments, and I am pleased to say that I was able to work them into the story. If you find yourself enjoying this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more. It would really help out a ton. But without further ado, let's get into the final draft of the first chapter of Project Prehistorica. Project Prehistorica, Chapter 1. Anyone can achieve greatness if they put their mind to it, but only one man can accomplish a feat unlike any other. Dr. Robert Redwood is a scientist in his early 30s who lives in the small town of Eastview, Massachusetts in the year 2033. Robert has a big dream, a dream that could change humanity as we know it. He wants to create a world where prehistoric creatures from various ecological eras can coexist with one another in a flourishing ecosystem. He had just put the finishing touches in building a functional time machine and was preparing to travel to the past. Then he paused for a moment, thinking about his former best friend Hiram Lincoln, whom he had a falling out with a couple months earlier. The two used to be best friends since they were kids, and they went to school together. They were both geeks that were really smart and got A's and B's in all of their classes. Hiram was always picked on by the other kids for being really smart, and none of the girls would date him. Robert was his only friend, which caused him to be picked on as well. While Robert didn't care and just ignored the other kids, Hiram was always looking for ways to fit in and wanted to be like the other kids. "I just don't get it, Robert. Why do we have to be picked on all the time?" Hiram asked his friend. "Just ignore them," Robert answered. "They're just jealous that we're ultimately better than them." "I guess you're right," Hiram sighed. "They just don't know true talent when they see it." They also both share the same feelings for a girl named Jennifer Williams. She was the class president and had beautiful brown hair and blue eyes, and she always carried a small handbag with her everywhere she went. The three shared biology class together and would often be partnered up with each other. Apart from her looks, Jennifer was very friendly and enjoyed talking to Robert and Hiram. Over time, she grew close with Robert, which made Hiram jealous. At one point, he decided to tell Jennifer how he truly felt about her. "Jennifer," he began, "I really like you, and I really want to go out with you." Hiram then took a deep breath and continued. "You're so kind and beautiful and an amazing person to talk to, and I want to be with you." Jennifer was silent for a moment. She didn't know what to say. Then she replied, "Hiram, that's very sweet of you, and I'm very flattered, but I always considered you as just a friend." This made Hiram upset, but he tried his best not to show it. "I respect that," he said. "I hope you have a good day today." Later that day, he was walking to his next class when he saw what appeared to be Robert and Jennifer holding hands. He watched the two as they talked, and before he knew it, they were kissing. This was the final straw for Hiram. "Next time I see that traitor, I'm gonna give him a piece of my mind," he growled angrily before proceeding to his next class. When the bell rang to tell the kids it was time to go home, Hiram confronted his friend. "You think you're better than me?" he asked with anger in his eyes. "What?" Robert replied. He was very confused. "Don't play dumb with me," Hiram continued. "I know you're trying to steal Jennifer away from me. You know how much I love her." "What the hell are you talking about?" Robert exclaimed. This went on and on until a teacher finally rushed over to stop the noise. "What's going on here?" she asked. "Nothing, Mrs. Powell. I was just leaving," Hiram replied angrily before walking away. The two wouldn't talk to each other again until nearly 20 years later. Robert was working on an experiment one day when there was a knock on the door. When he answered the door, he was shocked to see Hiram. "Hiram," Robert asked, "what are you doing here?" "I was in the area and I figured I would stop by and say hello," Hiram replied with a smile on his face. "Well, come in," Robert exclaimed, as he stepped aside to let his old friend in. After catching up for a while, the two learned that they both shared the same dream of creating a flourishing ecosystem. The two ultimately decided to just make it happen, and they went right to work. First, they needed to find a suitable planet for the creatures to live on. They eventually found an Earth-like planet around 10,000 light-years away from Earth called Magnus, or the Great Planet. The next step was to build a stable time machine that could take them to the ecological eras. It took the scientists several months to perfect the time machine, and Hiram was beginning to question whether or not the experiment was even possible. "Robert, are you sure you know what you're doing?" asked Hiram. "Nothing like this has ever been attempted." However, Robert refused to give up. "Just keep trying, Hiram. With the proper mindset, we can accomplish anything," he replied. After many failed attempts, the two finally finished building the time machine. Now for the tricky part, getting it to run, which was no easy task. However, Robert was determined to make his dream a reality and kept trying. After many failed attempts, Robert and Hiram somehow managed to operate the first ever time machine. "It works!" Robert exclaimed. "Well, I'll be a Gigantopithecus's uncle," Hiram replied. The two scientists then agreed that one of them should test it out to see if it really works. "Robert, would you do the honors of testing out what could be a major breakthrough?" Hiram asked his friend. "I would be honored to," he answered. Robert was excited. His dream was about to become true, and it was all thanks to the two friends. He looked back at Hiram, who nodded his head in approval before he took a big gulp and went into the portal. The portal took him to the Cretaceous period around 65 million years ago, when the Tyrannosaurus Rex ruled the Earth. Just as a test, Robert decided to bring back a baby dinosaur because at the moment he didn't have the proper resources to capture an adult dinosaur. He searched the world for any baby dinosaurs, but eventually came across a nest with a baby Triceratops in it. Robert walked slowly towards the dinosaur and put his hand out. The creature walked slowly towards the hand and sniffed it. It was about to walk away when Robert decided to use food to lure the baby Triceratops towards him. The dinosaur slowly warmed up to him and eventually started nuzzling him. He then used the plant to lure the creature to the portal. At that moment, however, the mother returned, and when she saw Robert with her baby, rage filled her eyes. She then charged at Robert and chased him around the jungle for what seemed like hours. Meanwhile, at the other end of the portal, Hiram was getting anxious. "Where is he?" Hiram exclaimed. "I hope he's not in any danger." Then, out of the portal, came a frightened Robert with a baby Triceratops in his arms. "Close the portal!" he shouted, and without hesitation, Hiram did so. After catching his breath, Robert showed the specimen to Hiram, who was amazed to see a baby dinosaur up close. Everything was going well until it happened. Robert was about to transport the creature to the planet when Hiram stopped him. "Do you have any idea what we have here?" he asked. "A test subject for our experiment," Robert answered. "Not only that, but we have a living, breathing dinosaur," Hiram explained. "Think of all the possibilities and the money we could make off of this discovery." "I'm not following you," Robert replied, very confused. "I was thinking that we could militarize it and turn the creature into a war machine," Hiram continued. "Imagine militarized dinosaurs that could be utilized in wars. How powerful and dominant we could become." Robert was getting a little upset. "You mean you only agreed to do this project for power?" he asked. "Now you're getting it," Hiram answered with a sinister grin. "Join me, Redwood, and together we could become the two most powerful men in the world." Robert was speechless. He didn't know what to say. "So, Robert," asked Hiram, "are you in or out?" "My dream was to build a vast ecosystem, not world domination," Robert replied. "I can't do it. I won't do it." Well, in that case, I'm taking the Triceratops with me. And Hiram began to run off with the specimen. Robert chased after him, and the two got into a fist fight. As they fought, Robert tried to convince Hiram otherwise. "We can still make this work, Hiram," he shouted. "We can find a way to settle this." "There you go again," Hiram replied. "Always thinking you're better than me." "What are you talking about? I've done nothing to you," Robert replied. "You stole my girlfriend from me, and I will never forgive you for that," Hiram angrily replied. "Wait," Robert exclaimed. "Are you talking about Jennifer Williams? She was never into you in the first place." "Because she loved you more than she loved me," Hiram yelled. "So that's what this was all about." "Dude, that was 20 years ago," Robert retorted. Hiram said no more, and the two continued fighting. Robert won the fight and walked over to Hiram, who was on the ground. "Hiram," he said as he grabbed the baby dinosaur from his former best friend, "you haven't changed a bit, and for that, you are officially off this project as of now." "Fine," Hiram replied as he began to walk away. Then he turned and said, "We are officially no longer friends as of now," before disappearing. Robert was silent and depressed for the rest of the day as he continued to make modifications to the time machine. 2 months later, Robert was ready to travel to different time periods, bring the specimens to present day, and then transport them to Magnus. Before going through the portal, he thought about his former best friend and how they were supposed to do this project together. "Hiram, I hope you're all right wherever you are," he thought to himself, before entering the portal into another time period. And that was the final draft of the first chapter of my very first novel. If you enjoyed it, be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more. And until next time, I will see you guys in the next one.